14 WILI and 95.3 FM presents Hometown Threads, a closer look at our community and the people that make it go. Every week, you'll hear uplifting stories from our local businesses and our neighbors. Now, here's our host for Hometown Threads, Keith C. Rice.
Welcome into episode 19 of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI 95.3 FM. And, of course, Willimantic Today Facebook. You can catch the show every Tuesday, Hometown Threads that is, 5:05 to 5:30 Tuesdays on the radio, and then Willimantic Today Facebook, usually Wednesday evenings is when we have it up there. I usually share it from my Facebook page, the Keith C. Rice page, and then this show that you're about to see will be pinned atop that page Wednesday night throughout the week until we run into episode number 20. Hometown Threads, of course, brought to you by Liberty Bank.
Yay.
Be Community Kind.
Be Community Kind.
Which our special guest has a connection to Liberty Bank.
Yes, I am one of the corporators, it happens to be, and I was in the foundation board for many years.
Dr. Katina Caban-Owen, who is a pleasure to have with us. And
thank you for having me.
And we got Liberty Bank, Be Community Kind. Big shout out to our managers, first of all. We got Marianne Gargoni, my wife, down at the West Main Street branch, Gateway Commons. And then, of course, across the street from the radio station, Angela Smart, 679 Main Street, and then Route 195 in Mansfield, just up there today. Hello to Carrie and the gang up there at Liberty Bank on Route 195. Liberty Bank, be community kind. Oh, I got to thank J. Matt Rupar, I'm sorry, behind the board. And RJ Willimantic Today. I knew I had to throw in a couple more thank yous there. So big thanks to those guys as well. And welcome in Dr. Katina Caban-Owen, episode 19. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are very well known in this community. In fact, you're no stranger to WILI in these studios. You've done a lot of the shows with Jeff Fleur. This is the first time Katina and I have actually met face-to-face. My father, Colin, knows you quite well. And, of course, you're very well known for, among many things, is, of course, they are all our children. We'll get to that. But first, Katina, right off the bat, as I usually ask all my guests, tell us your story, what brought you to this community. You're a huge name. How did it start for Katina Caban-Owen?
You really want me to tell you?
I know we only have 25 minutes. This is one of the shows that could go an hour, but...
Jeepers. You know what? My boyfriend dumped me. He got somebody pregnant in Puerto Rico, and I thought I was getting married to him. So the island was not big enough for both of us. And a friend of mine who lived here told me, oh, I'm leaving my job at United Services. Want to come and interview? And there were 7 candidates. And Stephen Larson, who everybody knows, was the director of United Services at Natchac Hospital, had the presence of mind to offer me a job. And I came here. I didn't know where Connecticut was, much less Windham, Connecticut. And I came here by myself in 1979.
And from where again?
Puerto Rico.
So your boyfriend dumps you in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you're going to Windham, Connecticut.
That is right. Locking myself out in the middle of a snowstorm in my pajamas in the first week. Yeah, that's how I started.
Are you serious?
I am damn serious.
Wait,
sorry.
I don't mean to go back to the boyfriend, but he did us all a favor bringing
He did me the biggest favor. If I ever see him again, I'm just going to kiss him and say, thank you. I've had the best life ever in this town.
How? I know we are so lucky to have you. But tell us the time frame there from when you were unfortunately dumped till...
No, fortunately.
Well, I'm sorry, you're right. Fortunately dumped.
Yeah.
So tell us the timeline. You were dumped on such and such day.
Yeah.
And how much... But then when did you deal with the dumping and then you're in Windham, Connecticut?
Okay, so my friends said we were going to study for a final exam. I was finishing my master's in social work at the University of Puerto Rico. And all of a sudden I see all these women coming in and they tell me what had happened, that he was getting married to somebody else. They literally helped me down the stairs to the office of one of the professors for us counseling, and that was in May.
Okay.
And the island was not big enough. I already had a job offer, which then I said, no, thank you. And I was here September 9th.
Wow. Okay, so there was a little time. How long did you go out with this guy? Like, how long were you
4 years.
Okay, 4 years. Okay, so luckily you weren't married or any of that, but still, it's a relationship nonetheless. Yeah. Taylor Swift just got out of a 7-year relationship, so you're almost in the same boat.
I thought I was marrying him. Yeah.
You really thought, oh, wow.
No, seriously.
But things happen for a reason.
Yes, thanks
So
heavens.
months later, you
I'm
go from
here.
Puerto Rico to Willimantic, Wyndham, Connecticut.
Yeah,
and
Willimantic.
really, literally, you were dealing with a snowstorm right off the bat.
Yes, and yeah, a couple of weeks later in October, I didn't have boots, nothing. Okay, so I came to United Services and stayed there for 13 years.
Wow.
I had 11 clients as the mental health clinician with a couple of other people, Carmen Santos and Israel Martinez. When I left 13 years later, we had 300 families that we had served and a team of 11 people. That was the time.
United Services.
And United Services. 79 to the beginning of 80s. That was the time that we put all our efforts in volunteering and creating the consciousness, raising the awareness that we were here to stay. We had been here, people who were bilingual, bicultural, Puerto Rican mostly at that time. We had come for American Thread and the tobacco farms before that in Hartford, and that we needed access. It was not that we didn't have issues, it was that we needed access and culturally appropriate or culturally simultaneous services to deal with that. So we were community workers, community social workers, going out to funerals and baptisms and, interrelating with people. And we started the Puerto Rican parade and many things, and the march against domestic violence. And
So you got all this
alcohol
go.
and
You got all
drugs.
this going in the late 70s, early 80s.
In the 80s, yes.
Okay. And how big is the team now?
I don't know at United Services because 13 years later,
Wow.
well, then the superintendent of schools hired me to go work for Wyndham Public Schools, where I spent 26 years
That's
there.
right. That's
And
right.
then retired.
Where now? Of course, you're involved. Wyndham Public Schools. Was it North Wyndham School?
I worked at North Wyndham and Wyndham Center in early childhood and through the district, and then I retired in 2018, and now I'm part of the Board of Education. Because in Wyndham, they are all my children. It's a thing.
That's right, and that was started about 10 years ago. We'll get into that because they
Yes.
just had the event out at Memorial Park this past weekend.
Yes.
They're all our children. Can't wait to hear about that. But let's go back to the school system. All the years you spent in the Wyndham Public Schools at North Wyndham School. Got any great memories or stories that you can share from?
Oh, absolutely. I always tell Pat Proctor, the then superintendent, that he also had the presence of mind of hiring me. It happens to be there were no counseling services except for psychologists in the schools. So we had the race culture seminars that Don Berkowitz at the time was the principal at Wyndham High School. May he rest in peace. Started. So I was involved with that in the trainings and raising awareness. And our team started volunteering in the schools. As a result of all that, then there were social work positions. First one at the middle school, which was at the old Kramer.
Yeah.
Then another one that was divided among all the schools. That person left. Eventually, then they offered me that position. And now there are bilingual, bicultural social workers and psychologists and all kinds of staff in the school system. But it was a conscientious effort to provide services at all levels to people like we should.
Wow. Were you ever at Kramer, or you just were?
At Kramer as a recruiter of families and things like that to come to United Services, but no, I was not
Oh, you were
a
mainly
social
at North
worker.
Wyndham.
Right, mostly at North Wyndham School.
Okay, so all the years in the school system, and then tell us, was there something in between working in the school system to before you got to developing and starting there, All Our Children? Was there something? I know
Yes,
you've
the
done-
Wyndham Task Force to Protect Child Abuse and Neglect. Sure, as a social worker, right, I have dealt with pain and suffering and trauma all my life, right? Actually, I have tattoos like our friends here, and this tattoo particularly is a butterfly. And one of my kindergartners beat me. And that
What?
bite, yeah, he was having a bad day. That bite and then spit on my eye. So send me twice to emergency room in Wyndham
Oh my goodness.
Hospital. And that pain became like too real right there in my arm. I had to like transform it, right? And created a Eminence, actually.
Eminence Inc. Right.
Did my tattoo. But through that, the experience has been tremendous in working with agencies and creating awareness and consciousness. And then about 10 years ago, one of our girls was murdered by the stepfather, and the mother was a participant of the child abuse, and that was Athena. And we started a year later when Nevaeh was murdered with Yolanda Negron and Wyndham Hospital and DCF and a whole bunch of other people, Nusi Halpin. I mean, I cannot mention them all, but we started the Task Force to Prevent Child Abuse and Neglect, and we have focus on that.
And along with They're All Our Children, I'm sure there's other events you've held to raise awareness throughout the years with that, right?
Oh, yes. For example, during the United Services era, I had a Latino family program, so through Charter TV, to promote wellness, right? And to talk about education. Once I switched to the school system, we had Schoolhouse, another TV program through Charter, where we talked about educating our children, and people would come and talk about the different demands that children had, and the parents and children were showcased, right? So that we would create a healthy environment in our community, a community sense, a community kind type of sense, as Liberty Bank well says. So that has been my investment. In the meantime, I have studied and continue my education so I can be more present and more skillful in doing things.
Dr. Katina Caban-Owen is our guest here on WILI, 1400 AM, 95.3 FM, Willimantic Today Facebook. It's Hometown Threads. I'm Keith C. Rice. It's brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind. And well, you've just been so kind to our community. And so when did you add doctor to your name? What year was that?
Well, before doctor, I added a master's in public administration, because if I was going to advocate with the directors of agencies and at governmental level, in multiple different associations and communications, with the Commission on Children doing parent leadership programs, not only in Connecticut but in Maine, and recognized by the Governors Association in the United States, preparing those classes and facilitating and educating people, I needed to be able to speak the language of administration. And doctor, I added, well, let's see, I was 48 when I started my PhD in 2002, the morning after my mother died at Wyndham Hospital. Yeah, and I say that because, you know, family is very important for all of us, and in my Puerto Rican community and my culture, very important. So my grandmother died a week before I moved here, and she lived with us. And my mom died on the day before my PhD started. I always thank her for that, because if not, it would have been my responsibility. And she knew I really, really wanted to do this for my own personal knowledge and gain, not because I wanted to become a full professor anywhere. So I always dedicate my commitment to people, for my parents who were wonderful.
I don't want to bring religion into this, but I'm going to for a second. But God
okay.
does things specifically. I can't get over the timeline you just shared as far as when these events happen in your life. The boyfriend, the grandmother, the mother, and then the things that followed. God is looking over you big time. I mean,
well, thank you for telling me that. I had never connected
the
mother and grandmother with the boyfriend, but I tell you.
Well, no, I'm just saying those.
What can I say?
I'm just talking about those three different events. What had happened?
Yes, just
the
before.
boyfriend brought you here. The mother the PhD happened. I mean, with your mother looking over you, and then your grandmother. Just all. I mean, my goodness gracious.
And in the meantime, my father was in a coma 3 years in Puerto Rico. So my first PhD, I had to quit it. It was in education because my father became ill. My oldest sister, Anna, who we call Tata, stopped working to take care of my parents. I stopped my PhD to get another job so I could help them financially, my sister, so she could stay home. So it has been a sharing in our family.
Well,
That's
one-
me. I mean, most people don't know any of this information. God gracious.
Well, this is what happens on Hometown Threads. We get to know the inside story.
Inside story.
But I will say this: I've heard your name. So, I mean, obviously through my father, so many people here at the station and throughout the community. And I moved away for a bunch of years, so it is an honor to have you in here, not only for the show, but I know you've been behind these microphones so many times here at WILI.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
But my father, yeah, he came to me last week. He says, "I got a good guest for you." And I'm like, "I heard of her. I'd love to meet." And here I am, sitting next to Katina Cabano, and so it's just
Such a baby.
Do you get back to Puerto Rico at all? Because I actually was in Puerto Rico a few years ago with my wife. We visited San Juan on a cruise. It is gorgeous.
Yes,
Oh.
absolutely. I have been there multiple times, right, in these 40-some years.
Okay.
Now it's really hard for me to go, and I have not been there since 2014. Why? Because all my uncles and aunts, all the family that brought me up, and you're going to make me cry now, they're dead. They died. They are passed on. Their spirits are everywhere around me. I'm sure of that. But, and my cousins are there, but it's like I cannot barely think of the idea of not going home. And home is the island, but home, my neighborhood where I grew up.
We're your family now, right? We're your family
Yes,
now.
you are. My sisters are here, my nephews and nieces, so everybody that is here.
So you're 40 or so years that you've been attached to this community, and you
Yes.
pretty much are. You're
This is my town.
you're a main. You're a fabric of this community
Yes,
now.
this is my town.
Who are some people that are near and dear to your heart that you can call besties or people that not only you work with the task force or just in general that you really consider very tight?
Well, because I have been a counselor and I have been in mental health services, having to be very ethical, confidential, I purposefully do not have so many friends because potentially everybody could be having a child or a grandchild with a problem in my school, and in the mental health clinic potentially anybody could come in. So with that said, I have a sister of different parents, like we call each other, Joylina Albarracin, whose daughters are our godchildren, Erica and Aaron. They are 34 and 32, I think. Now, were at my home yesterday. Nusi Halpin, another social worker. Jara Reese, other social worker. And so many people in this community are like freaking amazing. Can I say freaking in
You
the
can say
program?
freaking, yes.
Yeah, because I can swear in 4 languages. I always say that.
Wow! See? Another example of how
So,
Hometown
like,
Threads
you
brings
know,
out the best in everyone.
Lynn Ide, Jeff Beadle,
Oh,
your
Jeff.
dad,
Yeah, my father, yeah, I know him.
Yeah, Wayne,
Wayne, of course.
Yolanda Negron, Josh Clark, and
Sure,
Crystal.
Yep, we had,
Yeah.
in fact, you lead me to my, that's a perfect segue, as we say in the business here. Matt was out last week, and I was helping out with the talk shows, which Matt does a great job producing. And I was behind the board for Dennis and Susan's
Yeah.
Friday show. Josh and Crystal were guests to promote the event that just happened this past weekend,
Yeah.
which was Take Time to Play.
Absolutely.
So before we get into that, you started They Are All Our Children about 10 years ago.
the Wyndham Task Force, yes.
The Wyndham Task Force, and Take Time to Play, that particular event has been going on for how long now? Is that
7 years.
That's been 7 years. Were there other events leading up to Take Time to Play before that?
We have we did presentations, we did classes for parents, we did the community university or the parent university in Wyndham Public Schools, and Wyndham Public Schools have been a partner all along, all these years. So so those type of activities, but Eastern students, I work part-time for Eastern for the social work department. Eastern students became my intern 7 years ago to focus on 2 things. One group focuses on anti-bullying campaign, teaching kids to be kind. And the other group have taught being involved in the task force. So that's how we started with Take Time to Play. And I was telling you before that it was your father who, when I said, when I'm there, my kids.
Don't give him credit.
Yeah,
really, it was
who
you
said,
that came up
that's
with it.
the slogan. So,
My father helped you come
yes,
on that? Did he?
absolutely. In that
Wow.
room over there. Yeah.
You remember the room.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Take Time to Play, it happens
It was-
once a year, right?
It was
It's once a year. It's always like the weekend.
Memorial Park.
Memorial Park. Tell us about not only what happened last weekend, but how the event has been progressing throughout the year.
Oh my goodness, more and more people attend. So we figured this time around we had participants about 250 plus all the volunteers. So we had like 300 people in that park on Saturday from 1 to 3.
Wow.
And the progression has been that we just provide information for families if they want to have it. Different agencies have their information available so parents know where to access when they are stressed. But mostly we have a lot of fun. And that's modeling, right? That's
right.
how to spend time together in community, modeling with each other how to be happy, how to be kind. So Crystal led everybody dancing and, well, so many things, and so did Josh, and we had a candy, that thing that you roll, sugar candy machine, whatever that is called. Yeah, that thing.
cotton candy thing?
Yeah, thank you for the English part. So,
So we are Josh and Crystal, we should say Josh Clark and Crystal
And
Nieves.
Francelise.
They are the spokespeople for this?
well, and Francelise,
Francelise.
Gonzalez also. See, I'm 69, and all the crew, the
thought
core
you were
crew
younger than that.
that
You're 69.
started, yeah. The crew, the crew that started it, Murphy Sewell, Yolanda Negron, Bill Powers, Nusi, Jara. We are all, either retiring or retired. So we're passing all this responsibility, not because we designed to have them, but because they have been committed from the start to a younger generation so that they continue. I cannot forget that Judge McGrath, who dealt with the first murder in this town before I came to town of a toddler, has been so graceful, yes, that has dealt with the Johnson Foundation, somebody I don't know and has never been known to us, and they put $5,000 every year at WRCC, which doesn't charge us any administrative fees, and they just write the checks of whatever we do, like Halloween candy for everybody.
Oh my God.
So that's how we manage.
Do you ever think, I know you have it only for a couple hours, which is fine, but do you ever think, hey, this is getting bigger and bigger, why don't we make it like an all afternoon sort of deal, like a noon to 5 sort
Well,
of deal?
let me tell you that this time around at 11:30, I had a father, mother, and 3 kids showed up to help us.
Wow.
And so the parents who were right there in the little park started coming at 11:30 and saying, how can we help? How can we help? What can we organize? And the parents became such an integral part of that.
You may want to make this, I know I just expanded the time, but you might make it multiple times a year at this point. But, I mean...
Good idea.
I mean, it sounds like it's, yeah, I mean...
Oh, I thank you to you guys who have all the public service announcements.
Well, I actually, when Josh and Crystal were in here, when I was helping run Dennis and Susan's show, I made sure they handed me a flyer, and I promoted it on I-98.3, our sister station, and of course here on WILI.
Thank you.
And help get the word out. But you just over the years, you've had your hand in so many things. It's just amazing, and I'm just honored that we could get you on Hometown Threads.
Well, thank you.
And is there anything else in these closing minutes that you'd like to pass along, Dr. Katina Caban-Owen?
Better known as Mina to kids, that everybody needs to remember that in Wyndham, they are all our children, and we all have to educate them and be kind to them so that we have a better future for all of us and a better present.
Well,
peaceful one.
you've made such a huge impact in this community.
Thank you.
Changed lives. You've helped start careers. You've done so many things, and it's just thank you so much for coming on this show.
Thank you for inviting
And I
me.
look
This was a
forward-
lot of fun.
Look forward to in continuing our friendship. Dr. Katina Caban Owen, our
Thank
guest for
you.
episode 19 on Hometown Threads, brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind. Thank you to our kind producer J. Matt Rupar, RJ, the admin team at Willimantic Today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on Hometown Threads.
Thank you.
And that concludes another edition of Hometown Threads. Got a story for Keith? Reach out to him on Facebook by searching Keith C. Rice or email him at krice@hallradio.net. Don't forget to tune in next week on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM, as well as the Willimantic Today page on Facebook.